All right, welcome to Online Sports Talk. Today, I'm going to be doing a 7-round Detroit Lions mock draft. I'm only going to control the Detroit Lions. This is going to be what I would do if I was the Detroit Lions. I don't think there's going to be any trades involved or anything like that. It'll just be straight picks. That removes like trading Hendon Hooker to get an extra pick here or there, but I don't know. So with that, let's get into it. We are going to go over to the wonderful mock draft website. We're going to pick Detroit 2025, 7 rounds, and we're going to make it slow. Maybe it'll be open for, maybe I will do trades, right? So let's enter the draft room. And one thing I saw was a potential trade with the Giants today. And this Lions-Giants trade included JMO, our 28th pick, a future first, and a future third. Which to me was a lot, but it did give the Lions Abdul Carter in this scenario. So I don't know if that would happen in real life. I feel like that would make a lot of sense for the Giants. Then they'd have Malik Neighbors, and they would also have still have a first round pick just later in the first round. You know, they still don't have a quarterback or a running back or anything like that, but late in the first round, they could get that running back piece. But yeah, anyways, let's start this draft. Let's get into it. All right, Tennessee, Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter. Oh, wow, tackle. They did not take the tackle I would have taken. Jets took Campbell. New Orleans, Will Gent. Oh, wow, Genty to the Bears. Harmon. Ooh, Shadur Sanders to the Colts. Does not make sense. Wow, this is not how I think it would play out. Imanware to the Steelers. Whew, this is crazy. This would be a crazy draft if it actually played out that way. Some of those were just crazy. Okay, so the Lions are up. Lions need a few things. Obviously, everybody in Detroit, every Lions fan wants them to get an edge. They have Marcus Davenport. They have Hutchinson. I don't know that edge is actually on Brad Holmes' top of mind, honestly. I don't know that they would take Zabel here. Again, because of the edge, I like the idea of James Pierce Jr. Many believe they still need a receiver. You know, they could get like an Egbuka. That would be good. I personally like Josh Connerly Jr. Taylor Decker's getting older. Do you start planning on that transition? It kind of opens things up to possibly trade Taylor Decker. Brad Holmes does crazy things, so that is possible. Yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't think they'll go corner. I could see them taking a safety. Like, would Malachi Starks make sense here? Lions love to roll with 3 safeties. Could they? Maybe. I think they still have Aleem McNeil. They still have DJ Reader. I don't know that they need an interior defensive lineman. Linebackers. What do we got available at linebacker? They're like Demetrius Knight here, maybe. I like Mondon from Georgia. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of projects through there, so I don't know. Zabel's the best interior offensive lineman. Let's see. Tackles. Connerly. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of a drop there. Zabel makes a ton of sense. Again, not a lot. Like, Jack Sawyer, I know a lot of people like Jack Sawyer. You know, maybe at the end of the second, so I'm not going to worry about that. This is a tough one. This is tough. So with all that, at the end of this, I think, yeah, let's go interior offensive line. They need a guard. I don't hate that idea. So we'll go with that. Starks to KC. Philadelphia gets another running back. Milrow to the Browns. Whew. Okay. All right. Some interesting picks. Jackson Dart to the 49ers. That's interesting. Atlanta gets Pierce. Connerly to the Bengals. Yikes. Okay. Interesting picks. Interesting picks. All right. So then second round, we already got that interior offensive lineman. I could see both of these. I could definitely see Brad Holmes going with a safety or the linebacker from UCLA. This is where I liked interior offensive line because I like Ratledge in the second round. That is definitely a pick I like. I like Demetrius Knight. Might be a reach right here. At this point, though, you're really talking about a 20-pick window here, you know? There's a lot of guys who get drafted ahead of other ones that are supposedly better. Josiah Stewart as an edge makes sense. I like him. He was really good for Michigan. Just looking through here. A lot of interesting ones. Ashton Gillette. He's not the right guy for Detroit, though. Kyle Kennard, he's a good one. I do like him. I got him in one of my other mocks that I had done. So I think we should go linebacker. We'll go with Carson Schwessinger out of UCLA. And now let's see what happens with everybody else here. Las Vegas gets Gillette. Chicago went wide receiver. Josiah Stewart went to the Jets. Makes sense. Judkins, the running back, went to Dallas. Ratledge to the Colts. Okay. We're going to be looking for possibly an edge or a safety at our pick. Maybe a wide receiver. Maybe a tackle. Lots of things. Lots of things. So, another Ohio State guy there. We're going to reject this trade. I don't think a 4th and 5th makes sense for the 3rd. So with that, a lot of options. Let's see. Again, Kyle Kennard. I like Kyle Kennard as an edge. I really like him. Really like him. Again, I like him. I know we already took a linebacker, but there's no reason you wouldn't take a second. A lot of quarterbacks, too, if you were looking for a backup quarterback. I don't know that the Lions are going to be able to retain Hendon Hooker when his contract is up. I also don't know how high they are on him, to be honest. So, obviously, they brought in Bridgewater last year to be the backup come playoff time. That has a lot of fans thinking maybe that the team isn't as high on him as we all thought. Now, I like Hendon Hooker. I thought he was great coming out of college. I was excited that we got him because I thought he could be a nice piece that could fill in, you know. So we're in that point now in the 4th round where maybe you look at taking like a Will Howard as your backup. You know, like that wouldn't be the worst deal, right? Maybe you do go for a linebacker here. Kyle McCord, you know, he was pretty good this year. Malachi Moore as a safety. You know, maybe he makes sense. A lot of things that I could see us doing. Let's keep looking. I personally like Dylan Gabriel. I like Riley Leonard. There's a lot of quarterbacks I like later in the draft that might not be the most gifted, but they are, I think, pretty solid quarterbacks that could do well in the NFL. But it's, you know, being able to sit and learn and not have that pressure, I think is key for a lot of those guys. Yeah, I'm getting kind of far down. There's not a ton down here I want. So let's go back up towards the top. I don't know about Billy Bowman as a safety. You know, Detroit likes to take Alabama guys. Let's give them more from Alabama. I think that makes a lot of sense for them. You know, put him with Brian Branch, someone he's familiar with, you know. I think that works with Kirby Joseph. You kind of got some good stuff going on there. We're probably in that ballpark where you look at a corner just for some depth. You look at, again, backup wide receiver. Well, you might be able to find a receiver now. You're in the 5th. You might be able to find situational wide receivers here. You could get quarterbacks that are going to be potential backups. You could also get a project offensive lineman here. Interior defensive linemen who might be projects. Again, you're finding a lot of guys at this point that are going to be a project, or a special teams guy, right? They're not going to come in and be your starters. They're not going to set the world on fire. None of that. So let's see what we get. Here we come. 6th round. We could get a future 6th and 7th. I'm going to reject. Ooh, we're being offered a future 6th and a drop down. Let's accept that one. So Chargers move up. That's okay. I don't see any names flying off the chart that, I think we would have been like, oh my God, I got to have them. Kaiser from Notre Dame would have been one. Dylan Gabriel's gone now. That's a bummer. We're going to reject that trade. All right, so Kobe King. Let's look by position. Let's look at wide receiver. What do we got here? Nick Nash from San Jose State. Wasn't he arguably one of the best wide receivers last year? Wasn't he? Wasn't that the guy that people kept talking about? Linebackers. Kobe King I like. Shamar James. All the quarterbacks I loved are gone. There were some that were still available in the 5th round. But no, I don't really... None of those guys do it for me. So nope, quarterback is off the board for me. Tight ends... don't love any of them. Watch, one of these guys is going to go on to be a superstar. Defensive lineman. This is interior defensive lineman. No, none that I'm too high on. Nope, okay. Corners. Are there some corners I like? I don't know. Nope, nobody there stands out. All right. I mean, they could go running back at this point. Taj Brooks. Donovan Edwards. I don't think the Lions would do that. Because I don't think he's got that special teams in him, He is good, but he doesn't he doesn't break tackles. Miles Hinton, but again, that's me, the homer in me likes that. I'm not seeing a ton. Oregon usually puts out some good offensive linemen, so I think that might be interesting. Edge rushers, we already got one, so it's probably not a thing that matters here. And then safety, which we already got one, but you could go with Castro from Iowa. Shiloh Sanders. I don't love that. I do not love that. We got the safety. Yeah, I think we go tackle. Go with the Oregon guy. And see what happens. Why not, right? Why not? Not a ton here that you're... At this point, you're just hoping to find guys, again, who can fill in on special teams and just make the team. All right, so here we are, 7th round. We already took a tackle. Best available could be him, could be Connor Colby. Yeah, let's just go best available. We'll take Cam Jackson out of Florida. Okay. Coming up on our last pick. believe this is our last pick. So, let's see. We'll go Ohio State. Although, Iowa tight ends. Could go with the Iowa tight end. Hancock or Lachey. I think we'll go Hancock. There we go. That's our draft. Not bad, I think. I don't know. Looking at it, this would not excite me. I'll be honest. I would love the Kyle Kennard pick. Outside of that, I wouldn't be super excited. However, you look at the grades, I did pretty good grade-wise. Moore was probably my worst pick, according to this. Schlesinger would probably just be a depth piece, even though he's a second-round pick. You know, maybe he replaces Anzalone in a couple years. Zabel, again, it gives you a starting guard. The fact that you lost Zeitler, you probably need that because you're going to have, Glasgow and Manu as your guards. You know, I don't love those. Glasgow's fine, but he's like 33 years old. Manu is a project, so I don't know that he's going to really work out. Obviously, you have Sewell, you have Decker as your tackles, and Ragnow at center. So maybe Zabel can come in and be a superstar guard for you for the next 5 to 10 years. That would be ideal. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't love this, but I think I could see a guy like this making the team and being like a 4th or 5th corner. Maybe Cam Jackson makes the team, you know, and he's like your 4th defensive tackle on the roster, 3rd defensive tackle. Cornelius maybe makes the team for a couple years, and who knows, maybe he can develop into something, but I don't have high hopes that he'd be a star. Moore, again, I don't think he'd be a star, but he'd be a solid depth piece. Lions love to have 3 safeties who can do stuff, so he could kind of fill that role, especially after a year or 2 of seasoning, you know, getting used to the NFL. I do like Kyle Kennard. I think he could be a nice piece, splitting snaps with Davenport, and then in a year or 2 being the other defensive end. So that right there, Kennard and Zabel, might be the guys that go on to have, you know, Pro Bowl seasons in the future, which isn't bad. So, I don't know. That's my 7-round mock. Let me know in the comments if you think this would be a good Detroit Lions NFL draft. I think it's solid. I think you possibly get 2 Pro Bowlers out of it. You get a couple depth pieces, and then some other, you know, special teams guys and guys you hope kind of stick with the team for a few years. But the Lions are kind of at this point where they do have so much talent that not every guy will make the roster, right? And they're going to have to make tough decisions. So with that, maybe there were other guys you saw that you thought I should have taken. Let me know in the comments. Obviously, we all think the Lions should take an edge early, but the Lions are never going to reach. They're always going to take the guy who's going to make the biggest impact in their mind. I think that they know they win in the trenches, you know, with a offensive line and then, you know, defensive line. Obviously, the Lions' biggest hole is linebacker still. Obviously, you have Jack Campbell, who's great. Anzalone is a good leader, very solid veteran. You still have Barnes, who's a very good player. Heck, even their depth pieces, like Malcolm Rodriguez, a very good depth piece. Again, Rodriguez is not like a Pro Bowl or anything like that, but he's a good special teams guy. He gets in there and gets his nose dirty. You know, he has no problem, you know, working hard and being a good depth piece on this team. So I absolutely love him. You know, they've got some guys. So for that being the biggest hole, it's still not like a glaring weakness in my mind. You know, obviously the injuries last year really hurt. We did lose a couple corners. I don't think they're going to go with another corner with us having a couple, you know, really young corners. You know, with Rakestraw and Arnold. You know, you got Amik Robertson, I think, at corner still. So you've got that veteran piece to complement them. I don't think they're going to add another rookie into that mix that they're expecting to lean on. But I could see him going with a safety. Again, the Lions are a solid team. Obviously, I didn't take a receiver. I wasn't really into a lot of the receivers once you got into the couple of rounds into it. I'm sure there's a lot of gems in the third and fourth round that are going to be receivers that are great players at the NFL level. I don't know enough about all the guys to pick one of those guys. And I wouldn't build my team around a receiver. I still think the Lions have good ones. Tim Patrick, Amon-Ra, J-Mo. Like, those three alone are good. Khalif Raymond as a special teams guy. Again, I think the Lions are a solid team, and they just don't have a ton of glaring weaknesses. There's also the guys that are going to get cut in training camp from other teams, veterans that are salary cap casualties, which then allows other teams to sign them at a cheap price tag. There will be guys, and that could be wide receivers. That could be a second or third tight end. Like, you could find guys then who are cap casualties. So can't wait to see what the Lions do. Can't wait to see what Brad Holmes does. In Brad Holmes, I trust. I used to do these because I thought I was smarter than the Lions GMs and thought that I could build a team better. But Brad Holmes is the first time, the first GM the Lions have ever had that I just truly believe in. And you can go back and see a few years back before we drafted Sewell. I wanted Sewell. I wanted Hutch. We got both of those guys in those drafts. Heck, J-Mo, I loved that pick. I didn't love the Gibbs pick, but I didn't hate it like everybody else because I had already started trusting Brad Holmes. Terrion Arnold, again, I liked the pick. I didn't know that I loved it or not, but I liked it. And he's been a good piece for us. So, again, I just trust everything Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are building over there. And I think the Lions could be a great team, heck, for the next 5 to 10 years. I think we could be seeing, something great. So I'm just happy to be a Lions fan for once and, excited about what that means. So with that, guys, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.